Welcome, everybody. Yes, we have started. This is the cue. I hope you can all hear me. My name is Gudrun Giddings. I'm the president and chair of the Swedish-American Chamber of Commerce here in Los Angeles. It's Tuesday, 2nd. We are still dealing with a pandemic, as everybody around the world knows, unfortunately, and with that comes a lot of economical questions as well. So we here at the chamber during this time, during these months, we have been working, but we have been working from home to be safe. We've gotten a lot of questions on, specifically here in the United States, with what comes with this, like how to apply for loans, all these stimulus checks, everything that the government is actually doing, but it seems to be, very tricky sometimes, not always, but tricky to get the correct answers. And also you're at home by yourself maybe, and you have no one to ask. So we thought this was a perfect webinar to bring to you so we can answer a lot of those questions. Fortunately, we have an expert that is not only an expert, but he is our CPA and our CFO and a board member. Emil is here. I'm super, super happy. I mean, I couldn't be more happy that we have an expert in-house. And it's really, really good. He has his own company here in Los Angeles. He's actually Swedish for the people from Sweden that's joining us. So he speaks both languages absolutely fluently. That helps sometimes, certain people. But before I go into Emil and how awesome he is, I will just let him maybe introduce himself and talk a little bit about what he does here in LA and all of those things.
Awesome.
And
Thank you, Gudrun.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much for the nice introduction here. Hi, guys. Emil Abedian here. As Gudrun mentioned, I am the CPA and the CFO and board member of SACC-LA. But on top of that, I also run two of my companies, Abedian and Totlian Accountancy Corporation, which is a traditional CPA firm working primarily with small to mid-sized businesses with their accounting, tax, business consulting, and services. But we also started a small business for smaller businesses, Anchor Bookkeeping, where we provide the really micro businesses with bookkeeping services so that they don't have to take a shoebox to their CPA at the end of the year. That's the idea. But that's what I do when I'm not involved with SACC-LA. And as Gudrun mentioned, I am from Sweden. I not typical Swedish, but I'm still Swedish. I grew up in Sweden, in Uppsala. I graduated from Uppsala University and moved to Stockholm for a couple of years. Worked there for Ernst & Young before I decided to move to California in 2007. About, what is it, 12, 13 years ago now. So that's since I got here. Yeah, so that's a long time. So yeah. I've been in accounting since I got here. I was working for a firm for a few years until I started my company. So that's about me, Gudrun, and what we're doing here in LA.
Yeah, and as we go along with this, I'm also going to ask some questions if I feel, and towards the end, we'll also have a couple of questions. And for the audience, please send us your questions on the right-hand side of your computer or your smartphone. You can see a little box and it says questions. You can just type them there. You don't even have to put your name. We don't know who you are. You're anonymous to us, but if you want to put your name, you're more than welcome, but you don't have to. You can just write your questions. Nobody else will see them. I only see them. We had this about 2 weeks ago, another webinar. We got a lot of questions, so just as well in advance, if I don't get to your question, I certainly will try to get to all of them, but just in case, just because there was a lot of them that I learned from last time we did this. But please ask them, because I think it is valuable, and I think this is important, because while we're going through this and we all want to stay healthy and safe naturally from a health point of view, we also want to make sure that we survive this economically, because it's obviously, I don't need to repeat it because everybody knows what an economic hit this unfortunately has taken around the world. There's no one that's not touched by this, and I think it is important to inform yourself. And I am, again, very grateful that we can answer these important questions. So just please ask us, or stop or say, can you go back, and I can see that, and I will with Emil. So anyway, so Emil, I think one of the questions that we have gotten here during this pandemic has been a lot about the stimulus payments. Maybe we can answer those things first. What is the stimulus payment? What does it mean? Does everybody get it? How do you get it? It's been a lot of confusion about
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
please.
We get a lot of questions about that too, Gudrun. So basically, the stimulus payment is part of the CARES Act that was signed back in March, end of March, part of the 2.2, I think it was $2.2 trillion package that was passed back in March, where single taxpayers, basically, if you make less than $75,000 in adjusted gross income, will get the full $1,200 stimulus payment. If you make more than the $75,000 up to $99,000, and this applies to single taxpayers, these thresholds, you will get a reduced amount, but you still get something. And we'll down the line get to how much you can get depending on how much income you have. But if you make more than $99,000, unfortunately, you will not get anything. So you got to be below $99,000 to get something out of it as a single taxpayer. And if you're a married couple filing jointly, those thresholds are basically doubled up to 150,000 instead of 75,000 and what's not. You just double up those numbers that are stated on this slide. So those are the amounts. So one thing that it's important to understand about the stimulus payment is that it's really an advance for 2020 years income taxes. So it's a tax credit for your 2020 years taxes. So you get the stimulus payment now up front, but this has to be reconciled when you file your tax return next year for 2020. And that brings us down to a planning opportunity, because what we do is right now you will get the stimulus payment based on your 2018 or 2019 year's tax return, whichever was last filed. So if you haven't filed your 19 yet, most probably you filed your 18 already, but if you haven't filed 19 yet, you want to be a little bit strategic about whether you want to file it or not before you get the stimulus payment, because if your 19 is much higher income than 18, you probably will not get it if you file your 19 tax return. So for example, if you're 18, you made $75,000 as a single taxpayer. In 19, you had a great year, you made $150,000, let's say. If you file your 19 return, you will not get the stimulus payment. So you want to be careful with that. Another thing to be careful. So as I mentioned, it will be reconciling your 2020 year's income tax return. So if you didn't get enough based on your 18 or 19, and your 20 years income reduces for some reason, which we probably have a lot of reasons right now to have reduced income, a lot of us in 2020, you will get the remaining amount when you file your return next year. So in 2021, when you file 2020. So you will not lose it if your 2020 years income is lower. On the other side of that is that if your 2020 is much higher than 18 or 19, whichever you get the stimulus payment on, you will not need to pay it back. So once you get the payment, you will not pay it back, but you might get an additional amount when you file your 2020 return. So you want to be careful with your 19 years return. Make sure you maximize your stimulus payment before you file your 19, because you could lose a lot of money by not considering that. So talk to your CPA accountant, whoever does your taxes, or if you're doing it, compare it to your 2018 year's return to make sure you maximize your benefit. And another question is, how do I get this payment? Typically, if the IRS has your bank account information from previous year's tax returns, if you get a refund and you get your refund deposited to your bank account, they already have your bank account. They will just deposit it in your account. If they don't have your bank account, you had until May 13 to input your bank account information on IRS's website in a secure way. But if you didn't do it by then, unfortunately, it's too late. You cannot go in and do it right now. So you just got to wait and get a check or a debit card, one or the other way. You still get the payment. It will get delayed slightly, but you still get the payment. It's not that you will lose it just because they don't have your bank account information.
And that is also brings up the thing, I know it's been also tricky. So this can be get to you in three ways, I suppose. Be deposited in your bank account if they have it, or you made that input before May 13th. You can get a check, like a regular paper check, in the mail, in the snail mail, like in your mailbox. Or I heard as well that people get a credit card, which has been a little tricky because we're not used to getting a debit card, or called a debit card and not a credit card, from the Treasury of the United States. So a lot of people have actually not even paid attention to that. They might have gotten it, but they put it in the trash, or they thought it was a scam or something like that. So, obviously it's good to know which ways. If you get something from the United States Treasury, and supposedly on the envelopes as well, it doesn't say the United States Treasury. It says some other address, I heard. I
don't
haven't
know
seen.
where it comes from, honestly. I haven't seen the package, but you're very correct, Gudrun. You might get it in a check or in a debit card. So you gotta, if you get something in the mail, make sure you double check before you trash it, because it could
Yeah,
be.
and make sure that it's a real one, because there's also a lot of scams out there. So I'm not saying if you get a debit card that is the one coming from the United States government. Just again, be cautious and check, and check on all of these things just so you have it. It
You,
should
you
be.
probably want to discuss it and just run it by your CPA or tax accountant before you trash it or deposit, whatever you do, just to make sure it looks legit. Because as you mentioned, there are a lot of scams going on right now. People are taking advantage of this, so you want to make sure you don't become a victim of it.
Yeah. Good, great. Well, then we can move on to another thing. Obviously, we are a chamber of commerce, so we have a lot of small businesses and a lot of big businesses as well. So that has been also a lot of discussions and some confusion on this PPP loan that can also be forgiven, and all of that. Should we move into that? Can you
If you
talk
want to
about?
move back to the slide, just a real quick, if you haven't received it, there are a lot of questions about that we receive also. If you haven't received the check or payment or the deposit, however you get the money, what should I do? Like a lot of clients call us of panic, I haven't received it yet. Don't panic. First of all, it's a lot of payments, a lot of households that need to get this payment. So the IRS is doing whatever they can to get this out as soon as possible. And they're working on the lowest income taxpayers initially in the first stage, because they're the ones that need it most. So they're sending out those payments first. And so you will most probably get it. But what I would do is that before you panic or call the IRS, if we want to click on this stimulus payment calculator, this is a great calculator I found.
Yeah.
It's not by myself. It's by the Washington Post have it on their site. I found it very, very useful. If you want to scroll down slightly to see if we even qualify, as a taxpayer here, it's a very simple calculator where you can just input here, have I filed my 2019 taxes yet? If you say yes, you will just have to input your 2019 information. If you say no, then you just have to input your 2018 information, basically. That's all it does. Whether you're single or married or filing head of household, let's say single, let's say my income is $84,000, just as an example to show our listeners how it could work.
We
No.
have our wonderful team there. So William, is it possible for you? We can't hear you, but yeah, enter in
84,000, for example. I'm a single taxpayer, and I have two. Let's say we filed 2019, and I have two dependents right there, exactly. Once you do that, you will see, oh, perfect. I'm eligible for $1,750 in the stimulus payment. I was supposed to get it. I haven't received it yet. Okay, so that's a good news. So if we go back to the slide, and maybe we want to post these links on the chat box. Maybe whoever want to do it for themselves, they can do it. And also, so now we know that we haven't received it. We should receive $1,750. I haven't received it yet. So you can go into the IRS site, the second link there, to check the status of your payment. Click on the Get My Payment and just accept this. This is just authorizing the IRS. And then with a few very simple information, your social security, date of birth, your address, you click next, you will see the status of your payment basically. Did the IRS send out the payment? You should get it by this date. It gives you the update of the case. So if these two links will give you good information whether you should get it, and if you get it, what the status is. So make sure you do these things before you panic, call the IRS and do all the other stuff.
I have a question again before we move on. So this was great that this came up. So when we did that calculation there, Emil, it came up to 1,700. Isn't the max of these checks, if you are a one person, you know, like 1,200?
Plus $500 per dependent child
Oh,
under the
per
age of 17.
dependent. That's how it came up there. Right,
So
right.
you have two
So
dependents here. So
yeah,
if your income is, let's say, if we change that to below 75,000, let's say 74,000 instead of 75,000, you should
right.
get 2,200.
Yeah, yep,
Exactly.
yep, yep. And the same thing applies if you're married or if you're household. It's dependents as well. So don't forget to calculate in the dependents, which is children or anyone depending on you, of course. Yep, that makes sense then. You know, thank you for clarifying. I'm learning.
So this is, so we talked a little bit earlier that you should consider filing, or you should, you know, calculate whether you should file your 19 or not.
Mm-hmm.
So if you got your first payment, stimulus payment, oh, I got it already, let's go file my 19 return. I would be cautious with that because there might come another stimulus payment with the same income limit. So if your 19 income is higher than the 99,000 and the 198 that we discussed for married filing jointly, you might want to hold off filing your 19 yet, because another stimulus payment, if we want to go back to the slides again, William, next slide here. Exactly. So is the second stimulus check coming? Possibly. You know, the House voted for it. It's an additional $3 trillion bill called the HEROES Act. I don't even know how many zeros $1 trillion have. I know, but anyway. So Senate has not voted for it yet. One of the items in this HEROES Act is an additional $1,200 stimulus payment to family members, up to $6,000 per family. So you want to be careful again before, just because you got the first stimulus payment doesn't mean that you should go ahead and file your tax return, because you might lose out on this second payment. So be careful with that. It could be up to $6,000 for a family.
Do you know when they're gonna when they're voting again to make sure if this goes
Could be any
through?
day. It could be any day. The Senate is, I know that the Senate is against it. A lot of things in this bill that Senate is against. So I don't know if they will vote for it or not, if this $1,200 will be in that package once they're done. I am assuming, my assumption is that there will be a lot of negotiations back and forth between House and Senate before we get the final bill. But as it is right now, it passed the House with this within it. There's other things in it also. The unemployment, the $600 weekly additional unemployment benefit has been extended until next year, and a lot of good things there for families and taxpayers who need it. I don't know if it will be passed or not. We'll just have to keep monitoring it for now until we know.
Yeah.
But what we can say that be careful, don't file your 19 if you think that your 19 will disqualify you from these payments. That's
Right.
very.
Yeah. And then another thing that I don't think we brought up, but I think people are familiar with it, but I don't want to assume. So when they, obviously we always are so used to in the United States to file our taxes by the 15th of April. And now that is pushed. Just again, I think everybody knows about it, but I don't want to assume. So
Yes.
now it is, there hasn't been any new news. We're doing the date in July, right? The 15th of July.
As it is right now, July 15, any deadlines from April 15 have been pushed to July 15. Basically, your 2019 year's tax filing deadline plus whatever you owed, you were supposed to pay by April 15. That's been pushed to July 15, as well as your 2020 year's estimated payments. So as a business owner, no one is deducting your taxes. You need to pay in estimated payments quarterly. So typically for 2020, first quarter was due April 15. Second is due June 15. Those two payments have been pushed to July 15 right now. So we have until July 15 to file and pay the taxes they were supposed to pay by April 15th.
And you actually then have to, just to make sure for people, now it's 2 payments, not to forget, for those estimated taxes. So,
Exactly.
and
First and second
you
quarter.
think that, and then you're saying, which I agree with you, that if you haven't filed 2019 yet, you might want to take a look at that, or advise with a CPA, so you're not losing out on any stimulus money or whatever. But you really do have to file it by July 15th, as we know it now. That
As it
there
is
is
right
no,
now.
yeah.
There are talks about potentially extending it further to September 15 or even December 15. I don't know if that will happen. I hope not December 15, because then you have to pay your 19 taxes plus entire 2020 year taxes at once. It's gonna be tough for a lot of families. So, but September 15 could be a good idea based on what we're going through right now. So we'll see. As it is right now,
Yeah.
July 15.
Okay, so not to make sure to keep within these deadlines and all of that. So great. Good. Then is there anything more about these things, or
I think
from your
that's
side?
it, unless we have some questions from the listeners here. We can dig into the remaining part of the.
No, I think I might have somebody sent me. I think we're good for the questions about the stimulus checks. It seems like I'm checking the little box here. So
Okay.
wait, hold on. Let's see here. Oh, this is, yeah, this is coming up with more about COVID-19, and we'll get to this. I think it's more about the small business loans and not just a stimulus check. So hold on, I do have some other. I just want to see. There's a lots of questions, so I like it. Thank you so much. Yeah, I see. Thank you to the audience. I see all of these things. These are great questions, and we can take them as we touch on what we're going through in the slides. And if it doesn't touch on those, I will bring them up towards the end of this conversation. Yep, perfect. I like it. Thank you for sending in the questions. So let's move to the PPP, because we have one that has to do with that, and then some general questions as well.
Yes, so this PPP is a very popular program which we've been working very hard lately this couple of months to try to get our clients qualify for this loan. Basically, what this PPP, Paycheck Protection Program, means is that it's designed for businesses to keep their employees. So the government is giving out loans for businesses to be able to keep them and not lay them off or furlough them. So and the way you get it, you basically have to apply. I'm not going to go through the qualification process right now, because a lot of businesses that were supposed to get it already received it. Unless there are some questions, I'm happy to dig into it, but we'll talk more about the forgiveness, how to get this loan forgiven, because it is initially a loan which you could get forgiven if you use it for the right purpose. And what is the right purpose? Currently, keep in mind, these are current information or guidelines could change tomorrow, because there are some suggestions out there for additional guidelines. But as it is right now, 75% of the loan that you get needs to be used to pay your employees, payroll costs. Excuse me. You could be part of your payroll cost also. And the remaining 25%, up to 25%, can be used for rent, utilities, lease of personal property, such as, this is a good one, a lot of people don't know it, a lease of cars. So if you have a car for the business, you could use the up to 25% to pay for your car lease, business car lease. Equipment lease, if you have a big, I don't know, dentists, for example, have a lot of machinery and dental equipment. Those are all mostly on lease. You can use those lease payments. Any personal, real and personal property lease can be used. as well as mortgage interest on real estate, business real estate. Interest on that can be used towards the 25%. So there are some proposals out there that this 75% could potentially be reduced to 60%. So instead of having to use 75% of the funds for payroll costs, it could potentially be reduced to 60% to help businesses to use this money for other purposes than for payroll. And if that happens, you could use up to 40%, obviously, for the remaining costs as rent and utility and all those costs that we just mentioned. Yeah.
And it's also when you're doing this forgiveness, and what you have to prove back when you receive this loan is during 8 weeks, correct? How you use the money and sort of account for it and proof that you paid this employee and you paid on equipment or a car lease or commercial real estate and all of that.
So it's 8 weeks as it is right now. There is again a suggestion or proposals for extending this 8 weeks to 24 weeks. Mm-hmm. I think they will reach somewhere in the middle, maybe 16 weeks, because 8 weeks from the time you got the money. And the problem with that is there's a lot of businesses, restaurants, dentists that haven't been able to open up yet. They got the money for 4 or 5 weeks ago, but they have not been able to open up and rehire their employees. So that's why they want to extend this 8 week to 24 weeks as it is right now. And I think they will reach somewhere in the middle, but that's just what I think. That don't quote me on it. So that could be extended to 24 up to 24 weeks. But as it is right now, it's 8 weeks from the day you got the money, day of funding, that you have to use up this money.
And also, just again, because I hear and the feedback I'm getting from people when I talk to them and people contacting the chamber is, in order to apply for this, I heard you say in the beginning that a lot of people have already gotten it, but this is still going until the end of June, right? You can still apply for it.
Exactly.
And there's again a bit of confusion that can you do it yourself? Do you go through a bank? Can a CPA help you? What would be your best advice, Emil?
So you have to go through a bank, preferably your own bank, because a lot of larger banks, at least initially when this program was rolled out, they didn't take on any other clients other than their own clients. So, but there are some other banks that take on other clients also. You don't necessarily have to be a bank client unless the bank don't accept anyone else for it. So you got to run it through a bank. CPA can help you with the application, but you need to still submit it to your bank or banker to qualify. And they ask for some supporting documents such as payroll reports, and depending on what bank you have, they might ask for different kind of documentation for your loan application. So, but to answer your question, you must go through a bank, and you could get help by a CPA. I think you should ask someone, a lawyer, CPA, someone to help you, because you don't want to underestimate your loan amount. That could you could lose money on that. So make sure you maximize your benefit.
I would like to say it, and please forgive me, I'm not a CPA nor a lawyer. So, but I would actually say that I think that when it comes to all of this, taxes and government and all of these things, I think it is always advisable to go to somebody that knows this. I think you will win on it in the long end. You know, like there is a way you can always do it yourself, but when you're dealing with professionals who do this all day long, I have always said, why not go to somebody like that? Even if you have to pay money to have somebody advise you, you might definitely win on it in the long end, you know, if you can. So, because I think it is tricky to do all of this. It's to navigate and learn something that somebody else like you, Emil, have already the expertise. You know, we're all good at different things, which is the brilliant part of humanity. So I would say that when it comes to this, if you have a small business, I would check. I would still do it myself, like you're saying, via your bank, but I would definitely urge people to make sure that they're filling it out, because I also have heard of people who have small businesses who are completely legit, but they have not gotten the loan approved. So they might not have filled something out or had backup documents in the right order, and then that's too bad, I feel. But a CPA might have been able to help them. So, I think it is important. I just want to urge that if I can, or my advice, my personal advice. So great.
If you haven't received it, I know I talked to my banker just a couple of days ago. There are still funds available for this PPP program. So if you haven't received it, make sure, and if you think you qualify, make sure you apply. This is a very nice program, which it's a loan that could potentially be forgiven, and you don't have to pay it back if you use it for the right purpose. Even if it doesn't get forgiven, it's a very good loan. Right now, it's paid back over 2 years with 1% interest rate. So it's basically free money. So you want to take advantage of this program if you can, if you qualify, obviously. So
yeah, I think so as well. It's a lot of information, things changing daily. You hear from people, you read it online. It is tricky to navigate for our average people, Emil. Maybe easier for you, but
it's tricky for me too. Believe me, it's changing all the time, and it's this 2% might change tomorrow, or 2 years, or 1% might change tomorrow to 5 years, and so everything changes almost daily basis. But yeah, you got to be out on top of it to know it all, and don't miss out on it.
Don't miss out. Exactly. That's why I also, feel that it was so good that we could have this webinar, because again, don't miss out on things that can actually help you. Another thing that can help us, which is now the next slide. If you're finished, if you have anything to add, please do, Emil, on the PPP.
The PPP is so big. It's so much to talk about. That's probably 2-3 hours of seminar that I could put together. So I don't want to get in too much in details. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those. If not, if the listeners want to reach out to me afterwards, I'm again happy to talk to them and advise them and put them in the right direction. If not, let's dig into this EIDL, the SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loan Assistance, which is a loan basically. I need to mention this loan has expired for regular businesses. It's only available for agricultural businesses at this moment, but a lot of businesses applied for this in the past, and if you applied for it already, it will be processed. So I just want to talk to you about it a little bit in conjunction with the PPP, because there is a misunderstanding here that just because you apply for one or the other, you cannot apply for the other program. That's not true. You can apply for both of them. You can apply for PPP and the EIDL. So if you already applied for EIDL, you still have the option to apply for PPP. Keep that in mind. And when this program initially was rolled out, EIDL has been in place for a long time. It's nothing new, but it just came back with the COVID-19 pandemic. It just reinstated it. And when it first rolled out here, it was meant to be, so when you apply for this loan, you were supposed to get $10,000 advance grant, and whether you get an additional loan or not, you would keep the $10,000. But that very quickly changed to $10,000, up to $10,000 for every employee that you have. So if you're a sole proprietor, you're one person yourself, you will only get $1,000. You will not get $10,000. So they changed the program in the middle of it, probably because it got so popular and a lot of people apply for it. So let's say you apply for it, you have 2 employees, you got $2,000 advance until they process your payment and see if you qualify for a larger loan, which a lot of businesses got much larger loans. I got a solo realtor the other day that got just her running the business, but she got an additional $40,000 loan. Note that this is a loan. Anything above the advance that you get is a loan. The $2,000 initial grant that you get is just a grant, you get it. But anything above that is a loan paid back over 30 years with 3.75% interest rate, which is super good loan for a business.
Yeah, and it is, to clarify, that it is a loan that you got to pay it back, but it's over 30 years and very low interest rate, compared to also going back to the PPP to clarify that is also a loan, yet you can be forgiven on a certain amounts on it, meaning you don't have to pay it back. So, but no guarantees.
You don't have to pay it back if you use it for the right purpose. And
For the
right purpose could be very tricky because there are some limitations on how you can use the payroll and how you can use the payroll costs, employees costs, the health insurance, 401k. So you have to be really careful. I looked at the draft version of the forgiveness application. I had to read it. It took me a couple of hours to really understand what's going on there. So it's confusing. So you wanna make sure you look at it. It's not rocket science, but it's still confusing. You know, you got to put in together a lot of things. And keep in mind, if you got the advance, let's say the $2,000 EIDL advance that we just talked about, that portion will not be forgiven from your PPP loan. For example, if you got a $20,000 PPP loan and a $2,000 advance from the EIDL, even though if you use your PPP loan for all the right purpose, and if you would normally get the entire $20,000 forgiven, they will reduce $2,000 from that forgiveness amount because you got a $2,000 free money kind of grant from the EIDL. So your $20,000, out of the $20,000, you will have to repay $2,000 over 2 years with 1% interest rate. Keep that in mind.
Yeah. Good that we have you answering all of this. All right, well, good. So then are we in the end of this specific things? I still have questions, but I'm just holding them just for our.
I think we can, if there are questions, I'm happy to answer those.
This is a question from one of our members, Margareta. She texts, when your main profession is closed due to COVID-19 and you have a very small extra gig on the side and that you're still continuing with, and then, you know, so she's establishing that, then you get a W-2 form for about 5% of your income. Then what is that? I guess she's maybe asking if she is eligible for a PPP, or she's eligible for unemployment, or she's eligible for stimulus checks or something.
So the stimulus check is based on your 18 and 19's income, nothing to do with your current income.
Right.
The unemployment, I'm assuming she's referring to non-employment. I might be wrong. So you could apply if you have reduced income, even though you have some income coming in, you are allowed to apply for unemployment for a portion of it. So I would look into unemployment. The PPP is only for that business. And it's based on your last year. So if you want to apply for a PPP loan, it's based on your 2019 year's payroll cost that they do the calculation. Let's say average monthly payroll is, let's say, $10,000 that you pay your employees. You multiply that by 2.5. So your PPP loan amount is $25,000. That's how they come up with a PPP loan. So it's nothing to do with your current income either. So if you want to, if we understand this question right, I think you refer it, Margarita, to unemployment, and I think you could apply for unemployment for your reduced income this year.
Right. And also, again, with this, you know, with being, having your own company, you know, because I know a lot of people do that, so they might not have 5 employees because you're paying yourself. That's eligible as well, you know, since I know Margareta, you know, so that's something to look into, because I heard that from other people who have gotten their loan or the PPP approved. So even if you're an entrepreneur or you own your own company and you don't have anyone else on payroll, but you have yourself on payroll and you still got to survive and keep your business open during this time of, you know, maybe again, advice with the CPA in regards to how to support those documents.
So good point, Gudrun. There's sole proprietors. Let's say you're, again, a realtor with no employees, just you, or an insurance agent, just you can still apply for a PPP loan based on your 2019 year's income. So just because you don't have employees doesn't mean that you won't qualify. But if you have a corporation, your sole owner corporation, corp owner, your PPP loan will be based on your payroll, not on your income. But if you're a sole proprietor without any payroll, it will be based on your income. So the different qualification rules, depending what kind of entity, but most entities qualify for it.
Yeah, but I think that's important again. And there's so many small nuances, or whatever you would call them, in regards to knowing this, that I think it is very difficult for just your average individual, no matter how clever you are, to figure out the differences and what is correct and not, and all of these things. So again, thank you, Emil, for clarifying all these things. And thank you, Margareta. Then we have, oh dear, we have, yeah, oh, she sent in. So it was for unemployment, you know, and she says it's for unemployment because she is getting a W-2 form, and they say you're not, she's not, they say you are unqualified. So, well, have a chat with Emil, Margareta. Maybe he can clarify it out, you know, pending your thing. I think that sounds strange as well. You should definitely qualify for this. So, you know, we'll connect you with Emil after this for sure, so you can get a little clarification.
Absolutely.
Then we have a couple of other things here before we go to.
We talked about this slide already, the deadlines that were postponed.
The deadline, yeah.
Only thing we didn't mention here when we talked about earlier is that if you make contributions to your IRA account, Roth IRA by April 15, or an HSA, Health Savings Account, those deadlines have been pushed to July 15 as well. So typically those deadlines for last year's taxes is April 15, but you have now until July 15 to make those contributions.
Okay.
But the other deadlines, we already talked about it, so let's just roll over.
Lots of new stuff and keeping in mind. So we have another question here from Alex. Is now a good time to refinance your mortgage? And what are the key questions one should ask lenders when shopping around?
Now is a very good time to refinance if you qualify, if you're still working, because I know that the refinance, I'm not a finance guy, I'm a CPA, but we talked to a lot of our referral people and clients, and they made their qualification, refinance qualification, much harder now. They double check several times throughout the process that you're still working, because if you work today, it doesn't mean that you're working tomorrow with the current craziness that's happening. So the lender or the bank want to make sure that you have your employment throughout the process. So if you're still working, you get the same amount of money as you were doing before. It's a great time because interest rates are really low. Will they go below what it is right now? I don't know, but it's historically it's a very low interest rate. You could get a 30-year fix for probably low threes if you have good credit and if your income qualifies. So absolutely, what you need to ask your lender or the bank, make sure to confirm the cost, because let's say instead of 3%, the lender, just to sell you the loan, might give you 2.5%, but they might charge you an extra cost for it or a point for it, which will end up costing you tens of $1,000s in the closing statement. So you don't want to pay those if you don't have the money to do it. Some cases that might make sense for you to do it, to buy down the interest rate, but that's a good question to ask your lender, whether you're paying points to buy down the interest rate or not. But historically the rate is really low right now, so you want to look into it if you have the option.
That is true. You know, with all this chaos comes also opportunity. Hence, again, why we're having this webinar, so we can learn more a little bit. I feel like we're just touching the iceberg. I need to come and take weekly classes with you, Emil. Then we have another question. Jennings, wonderful that you're with us. Another one of our board members. Stellar. He's going to have an intelligent question. I know it because he knows this world as well, not the tax world specifically, but this is Jennings' question. Can I make a premature distribution from my IRA or 401k without the 10% penalty?
Very good question, Jennings. Yes, there are some rules you have to, comply with. If you or your spouse have been affected by this pandemic, you lost your job or your income is drastically reduced, you could get an early distribution from IRA and 401k without the 10% penalty. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, that makes sense. Let's see. Here is another question. I am looking for someone new to prepare my taxes. What are important questions to ask when shopping around shopping around, I guess. And what is a good way to discuss rates? I guess that is for a CPA to help this person with their taxes. And so you know that I guess you're getting a legit CPA, and so you don't overpay or underpay or however that works.
That's a that's a good question. You know, the first thing I tell the client, a new client that comes in the door here or call me to want to discuss this, I ask them why they want to change. You know, what's the reason that you want to change your previous CPAs to me, come here potentially having us do your work. And if the answer is strictly only the fee, I will tell them that's a wrong decision, because for a tax return, let's say if you pay $500 or $600, that's not the most important thing. The important thing is, how much can your CPA save you? Can that CPA who will charge you $100 extra, let's say, save you all this headache and file a proper, maybe not save you in taxes, but file a proper tax return, so you don't get these IRS letters or an IRS audit? That's what you want to ask your accountant for. You want to make sure it's the right person. And I think it comes down to personality. You know, a great CPA, I know a lot of good CPAs that are not being able to take on new clients because of their personality. You got to match the client. My personality need to match you, Gudrun. If we're totally off the radar, we won't be able to work together, because it's so personalized business where we need to understand each other, we need to be able to talk to each other, and I need to be able to guide you. And if your CPA is currently guiding you, giving you guidance, helping you throughout the year, I think that's the right CPA. No matter if it's charging you $500 or $700 or $100, that doesn't matter, depending on your situation. But if the personality fits you, I think you should stick to the person.
Yeah, that's actually good. Yeah, no, I think that is a very good answer, because I think that is with business in general. You know, there's lots of people that are have the expertise in so many different areas, but when you team up, and especially this, it's your financing. You know, finances for out the year, you need to be able to sort of click and trust. And it might not be in the first meeting, but you get a sensibility when you meet somebody like, great, I feel like this is good and I can trust them. And I do, I always felt this, that I think it is so important to actually do this. I think it is well worth it in the long run to go out and take advice. If you need legal advice, you go to somebody that's good at that. If you need financial advice, you go to somebody like that. If, you know, in whatever business you're at, you know, to gather that, and it's always up to you, you make the decision, but it's super worth it. It's I think it is something that everybody should do. You know, unless you can just hit a button and do your taxes.
You probably can,
Yeah,
especially
yeah, maybe
you probably can do that, but not here
Sweden,
yet.
I think that is possible, you know, and especially if you don't have your own business and whatever on certain things. I heard about those things, but if that's not the case, I think it is a well worth investment. So great. I have also, before we, is this the last slide that we have, Emil? Just so we don't go over time.
Yeah, unless there's some questions. So just the final kind of best practice during this pandemic and uncertain days, uncertain times. You know, a lot of us are, you know, confused, frustrated, you know, worried. What's gonna come? Will I keep my job down the line, or what's gonna happen if I don't have a job right now? Will unemployment continue? Or if I'm a business owner, will my clients stay with me? It's a lot of uncertainties that's kind of runs through here. But obviously we got to be cautious. How you spend more than ever. I think we always need to be cautious how we spend our money, no matter how much money we make. But now it's more important than ever to be extra cautious. You know, do I really need this before I buy it? Because you never know. You don't know what's gonna come in a few months or a couple of years from now. So be extra cautious, but don't be negative. You know, it's during these times that opportunities opens up. As you mentioned, and we were talking before, Gudrun, like if this didn't happen, we would not have this online chat right now, because we would not think about that, because we would just meet in person. Just because of this pandemic, we have this opportunity to talk to each other via Zoom or whatever, go to webinar. But look for new opportunities. Real estate, what's going to happen with real estate market? I don't know. I'm not a real estate professional, but there might be some opportunities coming up there. There might be some, for me, for example, there might be a lot of opportunities in the CPA world where I can take advantage of and grow my practice. So I'm sure whatever industry you are in, there will be opportunities. If you have your eyes open, just look for it and make sure you grab it before it's too late. That would be my advice. Be cautious. Don't be afraid. Nothing to be afraid over. Take advantage of the good things that will come your way. That's how we would say it.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's always opportunity. You just gotta stay, open to it and all of that, and still grounded and realistic. But I'm glad we have such a positive CPA and board member. No, it helps. It really helps. It's easier certainly to look for things, and you feel better about the world because there's enough trouble as it is. I do have, before we end this, and again, there's some questions I'm not going to get to. I can already see this. I have also somebody like, how do people get in touch with you? And Emil, do you offer free consultations?
Yes, we do. Absolutely. Best way to reach me is email or call me. Email is my last name at antcpas.com. I don't know how I will put it there, but my email address, or just call me at my office, 818-243-3455. I'm usually very good with email. I respond right away. We can set up an e-meeting, Zoom meeting if you don't want to come in. We don't see clients right now, but a Zoom meeting would be best. And we offer free consultation. Yeah, we offer free consultation to anyone who want to talk to us. And if we're able to help you, we would love to do that. If we are not, we'll tell you. We'll be the person to tell you that this is not my expertise, but I can definitely send you in the right direction to have someone help you. So feel free to reach out. Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for that as well. I think it is nice to have this free consultation, because again, that's also a way of seeing if you click with somebody, and if you are the right person for them. So I would urge everybody to watching this, don't be afraid to reach out, even if it is not right for you, at least you tried. And again, it's very valuable and probably can help you very much in the long run. So, and for some reason you don't find Emil, even though the slide that you see right now on the computer, just take his name and his company name and just Google it and you'll get it up, on, thank goodness we have the internet these days. And for whatever reason still you can't get a hold of him, you can always get us at SACC-LA. We know how to reach Emil, and he is quick to respond. So we can forward his information to you, of course. So good. So I have that. And then I also have another important question, which is, you as a CPA, this is not for, relating to COVID-19 really, but just a general question as well. Can you help somebody either here or maybe from Sweden to set up a limited company, like a LLC or an S Corp, or set up the paperwork, help them with the paperwork? Let's say I wanted to start a company and sell ice cream. Can I come to you and you can guide me and help me fill out the paperwork and all of those things?
So what we do, so incorporating businesses, typically it's a legal service, Gudrun. So basically that's a lawyer's work, but we're involved in the process because there are two sides of incorporating your business. It's the legal side and then the accounting and tax part of it also. So you have to put those together to come up with the right structure for you, whether it's an LLC, corporation, C Corp, or whatever entity that works best for you. But you got to look at both the legal and the CP tax perspective. We're not actually doing the paperwork. We have attorneys that we work with that we refer out to and have them do the work, because that's a legal work, and we're not lawyers obviously, but we are working very closely with clients, lawyers, to come up with the best structure that fits your needs best. Yeah. So I would love to be part of that process, but we're not charging anything for it, and we're not doing the work, but we're giving the advice to make sure it gets done right, so that you don't have problems.
And it's also good, if then you are referring, because sometimes that is scary as well. If you don't have the right connections, if I can call you and say, can you refer me to somebody? And I trust that because I know you. But if you don't want to really maybe Google it, you want to go by referral, so you know that you're getting a good person that can help you. Because again, all of what we're discussing today is, I feel, extraordinarily important. You don't really, sometimes you make mistakes, but if you can avoid them, why not? So that's good.
Yeah, we can
It's nice
definitely
that you're
guide
not
you.
charging.
Oh, because we're just giving our advice, and it's if we can
You're gonna
help,
get
we're
a
happy
ton of
to.
call, Emil. Everybody, your phones will be ringing as soon as we hang up on this one, going like,
I can't even fly to Hawaii or something now. I'm stuck in the office. I have to take the calls.
exactly, yeah. So two more questions here. I want to ask a little bit also, just before we end this, Anchor Bookkeeping. You said that because you also have started this and you run this, it's separate from sort of this tax company that you have. What is it basically? Anchor Bookkeeping. You just, can an individual do it? Is it only for businesses? Like
So,
how?
so it's a bookkeeping service. So it's
Yeah.
a modernized bookkeeping service. So it's a online bookkeeping service. It's not a software. So it's not QuickBooks Online that you buy and have the software. It's a service that we provide utilizing the technology that's out there today. One of the things we do, we have bank feed directly with your bank, pulling the data into our system. We do the bookkeeping for you. You have your dedicated bookkeeper in-house in our offices here that does the work for you and is here to answer any questions you have. And we do that regularly. And the idea with Anchor Bookkeeping is that have our smallest businesses have them access to their accurate financial data all the time, because we work with typically mid-sized, small to mid-sized businesses, but those micro businesses, I feel like they got left out. If they can't afford whatever a CPA is costing, they kind of get afraid to hire a CPA. So Anchor Bookkeeping is supposed to replace that need for them and make sure they understand their numbers, they get their financials monthly basis, rather than taking a shoebox, as I mentioned before, to their CPA at the end of the year and having, okay, file my tax return. This way you have your numbers, you have the financials, you just provide it to your tax preparer at the end of the year. Not only that, I'm sure your tax bill will be much cheaper also, because you have it ready for your tax preparer. They don't have to go through all those receipts and everything to get it done. So, but bottom line, it's meant for those micro businesses that need the help that they were not getting from a larger CPA firms. That's what it
And
came
they,
to.
and also businesses that maybe they don't want to hire a person and have them on payroll to do bookkeeping, and to sit down and do all the receipts and blah 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 and all of that. Because no matter what, you still have to pay for it if you're not doing it yourself. So it might be a smart way, I suppose, to have somebody to just sort of, then this way you avoid some fees and you can actually make money off of it. So yeah.
Exactly. And the idea with Anchor Bookkeeping is to provide affordable bookkeeping service. And we are able to do that with this technology. We would not be able to do this for 10 years ago, but today's technology is so strong and reliable that we could do that. So it's
Great. Well, just good to know, and I think, again, these things are just valuable, and anyone has questions or want to know more about these, you can again go in on the website or just call Emil and set up a Zoom meeting and ask him all the questions that I didn't. But I do have a final question specifically from me. So it is the final question, since it's 11:58 already. And this one is from me. What is your favorite part of this job, Emil?
Oh, honestly, I love what I'm doing. I think I was meant to do what I'm doing right now. And it's not because I like preparing tax returns, or it's not because I like doing bookkeeping, but I like the business side of it. I like seeing the business owners. I see hundreds of business owners every month in different industries, different size of businesses, and that drives me. And to see how they grow, I'm learning so much from my own clients. It's not only that I teach them, I do the work for them, but I learn from them from different industries. I'm a CPA. I don't know how to run a law firm, for example, or a dentistry or other, but I learn how they run businesses, and together we're helping them grow. And I would say that's absolute favorite thing with being a CPA. You see so many business owners and different kind of personalities that you learn from, which is incredible. It's a very
Yeah,
valuable.
actually, that must be exciting. I didn't think of it that way. So great. I love it. You can tell that you really love what you're doing and you're tremendous at it. And I want to thank you again for being on our board and being our CFO and CPA. It's very much helpful. You know, that for all of us, I'm sure, on behalf of us, but and also taking your time today and going through this. And we're going to continue this webinar again, an opportunity that would have not been unless we have all gone through what we have in the last recent month. So we're going to continue it. Stay tuned. Again, Emil, for anyone that missed this, or maybe you want to refer this webinar, or you want to sort of go back, we have recorded this. So we're going to, again, post this a little bit, maybe in a week or so you can always catch up and see if there was something like, wait a minute, how did I do that? Or how do you spell Emil's last name? So I can call him and ask about the free consultation or set up my business or something. So thank you again to all of our audience. Brilliant questions. Glad I got mine in as well. And Emil, thank you. And thank you to our staff and marketing managers that's been behind the scenes doing all of the technical aspects of this and helping both Emil and I to bring this to you. All right.
Perfect.
Have a good
Thank you
day.
so much. Take
Yes.
care. Bye.
Bye.